Hi everyone. Since I just finished grading your last essays and took a look at the discussion forum on your research topics, I thought that I would clarify some things. It seems like maybe some of us are a little bit confused about the research assignment and touch on some important things to move forward from the feedback that I gave you on your last essays moving into the research that would be very, very important for you to remember. If you go into our current course content module on research, it does give you, if you scroll down your task list for the week, and one of the things that you are asked to look at is the common works cited and in-text citation examples. So if you open it, it looks like this, and I noticed that some of you on the evaluative essay cited the entire McMahon textbook. Okay, and you were not really evaluating this whole textbook, but a play inside of this textbook. So I wanted to show you to make sure that you get this right on your research papers. If you scroll down, it will give you lots of examples of different things that you would need to be citing. This is a work in an anthology, or for example, like a literature textbook. So that's what our plays were, is they were selections that were inside of a book. So instead of citing McMahon, okay, you would have cited the playwright. And notice I said playwright, not playwriter. Okay, so if you notice this first example, Lorraine Hansberry is at the beginning of this entry, and the title of the play is italicized, not put in quote marks, and then the book that it came from is italicized as well with the edition number and who it's edited by, the publisher, and the date of publication. Now, you would also want to add, I just noticed that that's left off of this example sheet. I'll have to go in and alter this. You would also want to add the page numbers within the text that it came from, because again, you're not citing the entire book. The old version of MLA said that you put the word print on there, that kind of thing. You don't do that anymore. So the in-text citation, notice, is Hansberry, not the editor of the whole book. So if you did your essay on the Glass Menagerie, for example, you would be citing Williams, not McMahon. So that's one important concept that I want you to understand. And then the other thing that I want you guys to get is that the assignment sheet that is inside of this folder gives you details on how to get started and what to do. It is unclear to me from the discussion forum what the Norton essay of focus is, because if you look at your assignment sheet, and I encourage you guys to kind of use it as a checklist to make sure you're doing everything you need to do for the assignment, it does say that one of the total 6 sources must come from the Little Norton Reader. You can have 2 essays from that reader if you would like, but the whole idea is the beginning of this assignment sheet makes you focus on an essay inside of this book to guide you in your research. So I'm going to just give you kind of a quick rundown or example of what I'm talking about in these steps for focused coverage. So for example, I'm a teacher. I'm interested in education. So if I look in the back of the book, in the list of different subjects, this book calls it an index of themes, there's on 513 a list called education. So if I peruse through that list of essays, some of them kind of stick out to me, look interesting. Sherman Alexie, by the way, is an awesome author. Superman and Me I read, but I was like, I get it, but you know, I'm trying to think of something that I really want to sink my teeth into, something I feel passionately about. And so as I kept going, I found Linda Berry's The Sanctuary of School and started reading it. And as I started reading through this essay, I started wondering, is there a disconnect between the students who don't have a healthy home life and education? You know, this essay really made me think about how the foundation within the home can really set a person up to maybe like school or not like school, to find the school as being a sanctuary for that person, a safe place, or can be a place of contempt for a student. And then I started wondering, because she talks about poverty and that kind of thing, I started wondering, was poverty in the dysfunctional setting of her family life, did that have an effect on her education? So that became really my research question, is how does home life affect one's education? And so I'm going to use pieces from this essay in order to validate my overall thesis, my opinion. I might change my research question into a statement that would become my thesis. I might make a bold statement, which thesis statements have to be controversial, they have to be a claim, they have to be my opinion, so that I can spend my paper supporting that opinion with examples from researched sources, valid and reliable sources. Okay, so I might make a thesis that says something like, an unhealthy home life leads to a student's lack of education or derision for it. Okay, and so that would be my thesis statement that would guide me in my research then, and everything that I'm looking for has to fall underneath the umbrella of that statement, or I don't use it. Okay, so make sure that it's clear. I want everybody to know you have to use the Norton essay as one of your sources to guide you in this research process. If there is no Norton essay used in your works cited page or within the text, which it should appear in both places, then I won't accept your paper. Okay, because that means you're not meeting the requirements of the assignment. Okay, again, notice that you have to have 6 sources at least. So if you only have 3 or 4 sources, anything less than 6, I won't accept your paper. It's unacceptable, ungradable. You have to have written 4 to 5 pages of text. That's not including the works cited page where you put all of your sources on that list. So if you only give me 3 pages, I will give you a 0. And I'm not doing that to be mean, but I have to have you guys understand that you have to meet the basic requirements of an assignment or the paper's ungradable. Okay? So those are some really important concepts that I want you to get before moving on. Now, if you will notice, the note-taking practice assignment, again, makes you look at your Norton Reader Essay of Focus. Okay, so everybody make sure that you go in and you look at the My Grades link and scroll down to your research question and thesis discussion forum post and look at the little dialogue bubble that gives you feedback about your thesis. I noticed some other problematic things from the evaluation paper as well as the tentative thesis. Many of us are stuck in informal writing style. And it's incredibly important that when you write academically, you switch registers from a casual register of being what, like you would say in a conversation, what you would put in a text or an email to a friend. You have to raise the style of your language to be more formal. That means no first person and no second person. Okay, so second person is pretty obvious, you. Some of you are still using it though. First person sometimes I think is a little bit less obvious to people. We don't think about words like us and we and our being informal, but they are first person pronouns. So, it goes beyond just using the word I or me or my into us and we and our. So those can't be used in your paper or it's informal. You can't use contractions. You have to break them apart. Instead of saying don't, say do not. Okay, if you are wanting to, in your drafting, say we or us or our or whatever, then stop and ask yourself, who am I really talking about here? Am I talking about, like when you wrote your evaluative papers, you were talking about the readers of that play, or you were talking about the audience members, as if they were watching that play. Would it work as you watched it, but it didn't work as it was written? Okay, so the purpose is incredibly important for you to stick to as well. Okay, so this paper on the play was supposed to be evaluative. And some of us didn't evaluate at all. We just analyzed, just like we did for the literary analysis of the short story. But that was gone. We were having to evaluate and talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the play this time. That was on the assignment sheet. And then there were also details like you were supposed to evaluate character, you were supposed to evaluate dramatic structure, you were supposed to evaluate the cultural or societal issue present in the play. You know, is the play about discrimination? Is the play about isolation? Is the play about marital issues? What is the play about? And then evaluate that in how it is talked about. Does that mean because we are a more progressive society than we used to be, that plays like Othello and A Doll's House are no longer relevant? Were the characters realistic or not? You know, is this a believable scenario, or was it an interesting story, but it just wasn't, you know, it didn't move very fast for you, you know? And so the purpose of that was to evaluate. So I want you to get down this idea of purpose. The reason that I'm focusing on that as an example, of course, is because when you write this research paper, it must be your argument. You have to make bold claims and you have to support that argument. So if you wrote a thesis statement that was just a fact, this epidemic happened in this year, for example, that's not an opinion, that's a fact. So your thesis statement has to be controversial. It has to be an opinion that you will support through your research. Now, for developing that, remember, you can still use the same chunk form that we used all the way back at the beginning of the semester with the literary analysis, where you state a claim, you provide the evidence from the text. In this case, it's your researched text, it's your source material. And then you have to provide that commentary. Don't leave anything for your reader to have to assume. Spell it out for the readers, okay? So use that same form. Now you need, remember, the rule of threes from the beginning of our class. In order to be convincing, you have to have at least 3 reasons for having your overall opinion in the first place. For persuasion, it would be 4. For every body paragraph, you need to have 3 chunks or 3 pieces of evidence to support your overall claim, which is found in your topic sentence of your body paragraph. Okay, so all of those previous folders remain open so that you can look back through them and study how you support your opinion and elaborate and provide your commentary and all that stuff. All that stuff is still open in there for you to view, okay? So if you have questions regarding the feedback that you were given on that research forum, please don't hesitate to reach out. If I ask you what is your focus text from the Norton Reader, email me and say, okay, I wasn't sure what I was doing on that, or say, oh yeah, well it's this essay over here, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't remember that this one was in there. You know, because the, for example, sports section gives examples of boxing and baseball, for example, talks about Michael Jordan, but there's no football in there. So I'm a little bit confused by some of your thesis statements. So please, again, reach out to me if you have questions. I'm almost out of time for my recording, so reach out if you have questions. I'll check in with you again. Be sure to check your feedback on the My Grades link. As always, have a great week and best of luck.